over here. Aleph the Rosh Chodesh Iyar Ugam Lamed Nis. First day of the first the first day of Rosh Chodesh of Iyar is also the 30th day of Nisan. Today's date, the first of the Chodesh Iyar, has a connection with the prior month, with the month that we're leaving from, the month of Nisan. It's also connected to the future month, Chodesh Iyar, the month of Iyar, which is what it's called, the first of Rosh Chodesh Iyar. Skip over to Bays. Let's go down to 3 paragraphs further. Noisef al Shaykhas the Lamed Benisan Chodesh Iyar, Alter Rosh Chodesh Iyar. In addition to the connection that the 30th of Nisan has with the month of Iyar, the first of the first of the 2 days of Rosh Chodesh Iyar, Shaykh Yom Zeh, which Kishar Yimei Chodesh Nisan Gam Chodesh Adar. So this day, like the rest of the days of the month of Nisan, is connected also with the month of Adar. According to the order of counting the months in the Jewish calendar, we know that the month of Nisan is the first of the months. Like it says in Chumash, in Parshas Bo, concerning Pesach. So right away Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, this month for you is the head of months. It's the first for you of the months of the year. So therefore, Nisan is month number 1. But that is only when we're counting months. But when we're counting years, the month of Tishrei is the beginning of the year. And therefore, therefore the month of Nisan comes following and after the month of Adar, in that year that began with the month of Tishrei. Skip the parentheses. Well, according to this, yes, there's an association between the days of the month of Nisan, including the 30th of Nisan, which is today's day, to the month of Adar, because in the yearly cycle, Nisan follows Adar.
Sorry to cut you off. You just keep mentioning it's 30th of Nisan, and I realized that it's my father's birthday, Olav Hashem, and it should be Lila Nishmas Yosef ben Chaim Nachman. His birthday is on Lamed Nisan. Thank you.
We posted on the Tanya chat. Well, so he says, but this is emphasized even more so in this year, a year where there's 2 others. In a leap year, we celebrate the Yontiv of Purim, the reading of the Megillah, etc., all the other things that we celebrate on Purim. We celebrate it in the 2nd month of Adar. And the reason why we celebrate in the 2nd month, though usually when it comes to mitzvahs, we do not like to delay mitzvahs. Why do we push off the mitzvah of Purim to the 2nd month? To be able to associate and put close one redemption to another redemption. We want to put together the redemption of Purim close to the redemption of Pesach in the month of Nisan. For that reason, the Yom Tov of Purim takes place in the month of Adar that's close to Nisan. Moving according to this understood, and this year it's emphasized even more. The association between the months of Adar and Nisan. That's why we celebrate the Yom Tov of Purim in the 2nd Adar. So the Rebbe's point of all this is to understand the linkage and the association of these 3 months of Adar, Nisan, and Iyar. So the Rebbe says, "Nois Gimel Duber Kama Pa'amim." It was spoken about many times. The Rebbe speaks about this. B'chol inyani HaTorah, in all matters of Torah. Oops. It's something. Duber Kama Pa'amim, it's spoken about many times. The Bechol in Yoni Torah in all matters of Torah, a Maisa or Iker action is primary. Alderos have been in the down so too in our situation. Acher Sheyesh No Shaykh has been Gimel Kadosh, Other Nisan Iyar, since there's a connection, as we explained up till now, between the 3 months of Other Nisan and Iyar. Sadich Li is Hayra Ba'avodas Adam. There needs to be a lesson in the service of a person that's derived from the connection and association between these 3 months. Since the order of the months is also according to Torah, there also has to be in the person's service has to reflect the order that's outside in the world. Because the fact that the world is running this way of the connection between Adar, Nisan, and Iyar, that's Torah, that's according to Torah. So therefore, the person has to reflect that as well in his avodah, which is supposed to be a reflection of Torah. So the Rebbe is going to explain what the point of every one of these 3 months, and then their connection one with the other. The primary point of the month of Adar is the idea of joy. Simchas Purim, this Simchas Purim, the joy of Purim, and so too the general joy that's associated with the month of Adar, as we will explain, is in a way that's beyond measure and boundary, Adul or Yoda, until it is beyond knowledge and recognition of any limitations of the mind. Yoser Ma'asimcha, the Maidim L'Simcha, greater than the joy of Yomim Tovim, all the other Yom Tovim that are called joyous occasions. How come? So the Rebbe is going to go through different types of stages in joy. There is the joy that we're supposed to have daily. There's the joy that we're supposed to have on Yom Tov. And then, which surpasses that all, is the month of Adar and Purim. The service of a person as maker throughout the entire year has to be with joy. Like it says, serve Hashem with joy. Like the ruling of the Ramon at the end of the section that is called the way of life, which means it's a directive and a lesson in our day-to-day life. So the Ramah concludes over there, there has to be one who's good of heart, is always in a way of celebration and joy. That is the joy that's to be found on a daily basis. L'maylam is higher than that. Yasimcha the Maidim L'Simcha is the joy that Yom Tovim are reserved and specific for joy. Simcha Zu, the joy of Yom Tovim still, it's measured, it has a boundary. And beyond that, L'maylam is higher than the joy of Yom Tovim, is Simchas Purim, the joy of Purim, L'maylam Didavak beyond measure and boundary, Ad Lo Yoda, until you have no knowledge, completely loses any type of limitation. The Rebbe is going to explain what is it about the Simcha of Purim that is so much greater than the Simcha of, let's say, other Yom Tovim. The explanation of this is Nes Purim the miracle of Purim was in a way that it became transformed. It was turned over. In a manner of going from one extreme to another extreme. Like it says in the Megillah, the day that the enemies of the Jews were hoping to rule over them, when it was transformed, that the Jews ruled over their enemies. This means this means during a very short amount of time. That very day that they hoped to kill the Jews, it occurred the miracle in a way that transformed, that instead of the Jews being the victims, they became the victors. As opposed to the joy of Yom Tovim, which are meant to be joyous. Chag Pesach. For example, let's take the Yom Tov of Pesach. It wasn't a transformation that took place in one day. It was a process. In the Kvar Rosh Mitzrayim. The Medrash explains that even though the Yidden actually left Egypt on the 15th of Nisan, but Rosh Hashanah prior to that was already, because of all the makkahs that were going on, any types of slave labor ceased from the Yidden. The Yitzias Mitzrayim, going out of Mitzrayim was the 15th of Nisan, after a duration of 6.5 months. Or it was 7.5 Chodesh months. According to the opinion that the year that they went out of Mitzrayim was a leap year. It's not in a way that it was transformed from one extreme to another extreme in that very day. So that's not like Purim. That was the very day of Purim was transformed. So concerning the Yom Tov of Sukkot. Simcha the Chag Sukkot, Ksura Me'inyan the Chag also. The joy of Sukkot has to do with the idea that it's the Yom Tov of gathering. That's you bringing the food in from the field. When you gather from your grain, from your wine. After all the work and labor and toil throughout the entire year, planting and cutting and so on. Since between the time of the toil of working the field, plowing and sowing, until the joy of the Yom Tov, the gathering in, there's much time in between. Movements understood that the joy does not come in a way that comes transformed from one extreme to another extreme. In a similar vein concerning Shavuos, Chag Shavuos the day of the first fruits, and the joy of Shavuos is connected with the bringing of the first fruits to the Kayin and the Beis Hamikdash. So again, Harei Simcha Ba La'achre Meshach Zman Kanal B'Negel Chag HaSukkos. It's also a joy that follows a duration of time. Like we said, by Chag HaSukkos, there had to be the planting, there had to be the sowing, there had to be the plowing, all these things. The same thing to be able to bring the first fruits. There was also a whole lengthy process until that took place. But additional to this, Chag HaShavuos ba la'achrei ha'avoda de Sfira Sa'im. The Yom Tov of Shavuos came after the avoda of Sfira. Hispru chamishim yom shall count 50 days. La'achrei meshach zman. It's after an entire duration of time. So again, it's not a sudden transformation. Because of that, there's a difference between the joy of all these other joyous Yom Tovim versus the joy of Purim. Therefore, the joy of those appointed Yom Tovim for joy, is with measure and boundary. As opposed to the joy of Purim is beyond measure and boundary. In a way that's beyond intellectual perception. Since the miracle occurred in such a way that it was transformed from one extreme to another extreme. So in the Kudas Klolos Chodesh Adar Loira Purim. This is the point of the entire month of Adar, not just Purim. Like it's explained, Yerushalmi Shakol Chodesh Adar Kosher L'Kriyas HaMegillah. The entire month of Adar is kosher to be read the Megillah under certain specific circumstances. In Namar, as it says, it's the month that became transformed. Like it's explained in Gemara, a Jew that has a court case with a non-Jew, should make himself available for the court case in other, because then his mazel is in ascendancy. So it's the entire month that was transformed to Jew. So up till now, he explained how Adar is about joy, and joy in the highest way, greater than every day of the year, greater even than other Yom Tovim that are joyous as well. Now he's going to go to examine, and what's the point of the month of Nisan? The main point of the month of Nisan is the redemption. When Hashem first chose his world, Rosh Chodesh, he established in it heads of months and heads of years. But when he chose Yaakov and his sons, he established for them a month of redemption. This month for you, ahead of months. So this entire month is a month of Geula. It's not just that the 15th of Nisan is Geula, but the entire month is a month of Geula. The Chodesh Iyar here, the Chodesh Iyar here, the primary point of the month of Iyar is B'chol Yom V'Yom Yishabai Yashna Mitzvah the Sfiras Omer. Every single day of the month of Iyar, there's the mitzvah of counting the Omer. Like Hakadoshim Nisan V'Sivan. Not like the months of Nisan V'Sivan, that though we count the Omer in those months, but it's not the entire month filled with that mitzvah. Only in a portion, a part of the days of those months, there's the mitzvah sfira. Iyar is the only month in the year that is unique, that the entire month has a special time-oriented mitzvah. It's not found the rest of the year. What I just now said, like the Rebbe spoke about many times, Chodesh Iyar is distinct and unique from all the other months of the year. It's the only month in all the months of the year. That every single day in that month is a moed ala nitzchis. The fact that every single day it is so, that indicates a certain aspect of the everlasting nature of it. Kasher and mitzvah Sfiras Omer is connected with the idea of Sfiras Omer. Before fulfilling the mitzvah, we make a bracha on Sfiras Omer. And after fulfilling the mitzvah, we say Tefillah Rebbeinu Shalom Chulu. We say the Tefillah that begins with the words Rebbeinu Shalom, Master of the world. That in that Tefillah it says Sfiras Omer in Yana L'Tareinu Miklubaseinu Metumaseinu. That the point of Sfiras Omer is to purify us from our klippos and from our tumah. If so, it's a close preparation for the fulfillment of the promise of when this will be truly so. When will we be truly removed from the klippos? That, like when Mashiach comes, like it says, that the spirit of tumah will be removed from the earth. How does that take place? How is the tumah removed? Through the fact that the avoid of every single yid is in the utmost perfect manner. The Torah will become purified and sanctified with the holiness of above. The foil flame is gamba oilam, it affects perfection also in the world. But often the yushba in such a manner that a great hashpah comes down in all the world. So this is how powerful the Sfiras Omer is, this revelation of godliness in the Yid, in this purification, and the revelation of godliness in the world. To sum up now what all these 3 months are about. Chodesh Adar Nekudasai, in Simcha, the month of Adar, its point is the idea of joy. Chodesh Nisan in Yana Inyan Hagul, the month of Nisan is the idea of redemption. The month of Iyar is the mitzvah sfira, which is about togetherness and joining with Hashem. Say the order in these 3 matters, the Seder HaChadoshim, in the order of the months. Inyan Simcha Adar, the idea of Simcha is in the month of Adar. L'achar zeh Inyan Hagula Nisan, afterwards the idea of redemption, which is Nisan. And afterwards, the idea of togetherness and joining, which is Iyar. So, what's the explanation of why it goes in this order? Why do we start off with Simcha? From Simcha, we go to Geula, and from Geula, we go to the joining with Hashem. Rebbe explains, Simcha Tmidis Eina Mitis Inyanasim. An ongoing, constant joy is not the true idea of joy. Al derech shetainuk tmidi and tiny, just like an ongoing, constant delight is not a delight. We should like we see with our senses, someone that's joyous for a very long time. In the after simcha together, though joy breaks through boundaries, simcha, he doesn't feel the joy so much because he became accustomed to it. Once you become accustomed to something, it doesn't leave the impression upon you. We find this ruling concerning Sheva Brachas. Only if there's a new face, if there's a new guest during the, during the following Sheva Brachas after the wedding, after Loimer Shasimcha V'Moina, are you able to say the bracha Shasimcha V'Moina? Lula Zois, because if you do not have another face, it's the same guest that you've been seeing for the last 6 days. It's not the true idea of joy, because true idea of joy needs to be a new joy coming to it. This is not something new. Pisa moving according to this understood. A true joy applies. When prior to this there was something untoward and unwanted. And afterwards it became transformed. Then the joy is great. Because now it's a totally new state and situation. Similar to what we say, the pasuk says that the greatness and the advantage of light is seen and recognizable when it comes out of darkness, and the advantage and greatness of wisdom is when it's seen coming out of foolishness. The light and the wisdom that follows darkness and foolishness, it's in a way of a greater light and a greater wisdom. In comparison to light and wisdom in their essence, that there was no darkness and foolishness like before the sin. So in a similar vein, just like light and wisdom is greater when it follows and comes out of darkness and foolishness, while there is in a similar vein concerning joy. Only after an opposite situation, contrary to joy. That's the true idea of joy. The simcha as opposed to if it's constant joy, so then it doesn't really have the true idea of joy. And then the Rebbe says an interesting thing. We were speaking about before Sheva Brachas. In Sheva Brachas, we recognize and we recall the first wedding in the world. The first wedding in the world is what it says that Hashem made a chuppah for Adam and Chava. And we actually make reference to this in the Sheva Brachas. Seemingly, what joy was there over there that followed a time when there was no joy? The Rebbe explains also the joy that's said in the expression of the Sheva Brachas. In the Sheva Brachas we say, like you, the one who formed you, rejoiced you, made you rejoice in Gan Eden from early on. So what joy is there over there? What was there a situation where they came out of a non-joyous state? So he says, yes. When did the chuppah that Hashem made for Adam and Chava take place? Only once they were separated into separate human beings. Hashem made an operation on Adam, removed the side and made from her Chava, and they were separated. After the idea that Hashem built up the side of other edition, then Hashem was the first Shadchan. He joined them. There was the idea of escorts to the chuppah. Magur Baruch Pirkei Rabbi Lezer like to explain that length in the Medrash known as Pirkei Rabbi Lezer. Only afterwards is the fact that the idea that the one who formed you rejoiced. Then moving for this understood. The true idea of joy, it's only when it's connected with the idea of redemption. First, there was a state and situation of the opposite of redemption. The Rebbe doesn't want to say the word golus, but that's what he's talking about. When the redemption comes, then the joy is in its perfect state. And now we're going to understand the order of the months. Therefore, the order is after the month of Adar, which is the idea of joy. Chodesh Nisan comes the month of Nisan. Inyan HaGeula, the idea of redemption. Why? Because as great as it was, the joy in Adar, but the joy of the redemption, since there was a negative preceding it, is greater. Simcha HaKshura Be'inyan HaGeula Hidargen Nilus Yoser, because the joy that's connected with the idea of redemption is a higher level of joy. Shleimus Inyan HaSimcha, the ultimate idea of joy. After the joy of the month of Adar comes the redemption of the month of Nis. Then the joy, because it followed Geula, it's a result of Geula, of redemption, it's so much greater. Now, like we said before, the month of Nisan is called the month of redemption. Simcha Kshure Magul, the Chodesh Nisan Yitzias Mitzrayim, he b'shlei Musam, and the joy that's connected with the redemption of the month of Nisan is perfect. Since the redemption itself could have been a perfect state. Chazal said, if the Yidden would have merited, when the Yidden left Mitzrayim, it would have been a redemption that had no goals following it if we would have married. But Oifin should take of Lachar Yitzias Mitzrayim in such a way that immediately after going out of Mitzrayim, it would have been affected immediately that you would have brought them and you would have given them and planted them in the mountain of your inheritance until the Migdash of Hashem your hands made. Binyan Beis Hamikdash Baruch Hu would have been the building the Beis Hamikdash through Hashem, not through man like the building was through Shlomo. Like it's also emphasized in the idea, which a custom of Eden is Torah. The entire days of the month of Nisan we do not say Tachton. Since this idea shows on the great advantage of these days, moving it's understood that those matters that are affected through the saying of Tachton throughout the entire year, the days of Nisan are so powerful that even without reciting Tachton, we are able to accomplish in the month of Nisan what it takes recitation of Tachton throughout the entire year. I knew this means that in the month of Nisan, the entire idea of saying I was guilty and I did this bad and so on is not applicable in the month of Nisan. Dugmas Hagula the loss of love is similar to the revelation, to the redemption of Mashiach's time. And the spirit of Tumah will remove from the land. So essentially, the Rebbe is saying over here that what we have in the month of Nisan is a lot of things that remind us not just of the Geula of Nisan, but the Geula with Mashiach. Following the Geula of what we're talking about in the month of Nisan, but in the Chodesh Iyar comes the month of the idea of the month of Iyar. And the Kedosai mitzvah Sfiras Oim, its point of the month of Iyar is the mitzvah Sfira. Flawless Indian, the tzafs of a chibur, the general idea of togetherness and joint. Birvas, that explanation this is. Gam la'oslovi, also in the future. La'achre kiyum ayir the vesruch atuma avim oretz. After we fulfilled the promise that the spirit of Tumah will remove from the earth. Yia Indian, the yelchu mechayel choyel. There will be the idea they will go from strength to strength. Yin will not remain in the very same level as they were when Mashiach first came. The Maimer of Chazal say tzaddikim ein la menucha, that tzaddikim do not have no rest. Loi boilam hazav, loi boilam hav. Not in this world, meaning in the present state before Mashiach comes, and also including, like you're soon going to say, after Mashiach comes, but before Tchias HaMesim, and even after Tchias HaMesim, they won't have any rest. This world includes also the period in the era of the coming of Mashiach. And how much more so that the world to come includes the period of the coming of Mashiach, like it's known the different explanations that there is in the world to come. So what does it mean tzaddikim won't have any rest? Because we will always be going stronger and higher. Like it's explained in Tanish. Even in the future time, it will go up from level to level. But instead of now, where the rising up is taking the sparks out of Flipper, that's the rising from level to level. Mashiach comes, Mashiach comes, the elevations will be in holiness itself, the increase in light. The dogmas, gambas, manazes, managos, and similar to this, is also these days in the time of exile and outside of Eretz Yisrael, and the double and quadruple darkness of the heels of Mashiach. So what is going up higher and higher? Similar to Mashiach's time, it's Kiyam HaMitzvah. Fulfilling mitzvahs is that going up higher and higher, similar to Mashiach's time. So Benin Dedan, in our case, the mitzvah of Sfiras HaOmer is about going up higher and higher. When a Yid is born, especially after the entrance of this holy soul, it's Milah for the mitzvah of Milah. Now he is a revealed member of this holy nation. Masha b'nei Yisrael, the fact that the Yidden are called a holy nation, this is similar to what it says in last week's parsha, in Tashar Amalf, was last week. But else it's this week's parsha, that you will be holy. What does that mean? He Kaddish only because I am holy. Since Eden are bound up and joined with Hashem, like the command that was given by the giving of the Torah, this is also a promise and an empowerment. You will be for me a holy kingdom. A kingdom of Kohanim and a holy nation. I know this means through the fact that you will be for me, your connection with me, that causes in regardless of the person's state and situation, his state in such a way of the kingdom of priests and the holy nation. Despite the fact that every Yid has that inherently, yet still in all, still in all, movement of Pashtus is self-understood, through fulfilling a mitzvah, it's affected the idea of the togetherness and joining with Hashem. Hainu, this means miskasha Yehudim through this a Yid connects himself with the holiness of Hashem. In a higher way than is bond than prior to fulfilling this mitzvah. This means now an ascent and an elevation is in the holy nation that he was before. Similar to the ascent and holiness that will be in Mashiach's time, similar vein now. Even though we start off being a holy nation, but through fulfilling mitzvahs, the holiness grows and grows, and the holiness of the nation only increases. That's a general idea of the point of the month of Iyar, the mitzvah of counting of the Omer. Even after the redemption of the month of Nisan, that's similar to the redemption of Mashiach's times. There has to be a sense and elevation in holiness itself. It features a mudgish by mitzvah spheres oimer, like it's emphasized in the mitzvah of counting of the oimer. After all the ascents that were prior to this, ad close in an agula till the general idea of the redemption. In a day, kiyam mitzvah spheres oimer, through the fulfillment of the mitzvah of counting of the oimer, nifola in the tzafs of chibur makadosh baruch hu. It's affected the idea of the joining and uniting with Hashem. But in a higher way than was prior to that. He stayed even more so. Even after fulfilling the mitzvah of counting of the Omer yesterday. Though this union that takes place through the mitzvahs, so any spiritual union is everlasting, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, void forever and ever, Mashenkin Lamata, as opposed to down here below. When I'm done doing the mitzvah, I'm not in a state of union with Hashem in a revealed way. Kol Mokim still Mekayim Lamachas submit to the spiritual Omer. When on the morrow he fulfills the mitzvah of spiritual Omer, Nifala Inyan the Tzasav V'Chibur by from Naila Yoser and Meshahoya Dekim Mitzvah Esma. It's affected the joining and togetherness of this mitzvah in a greater way than I am joined that was together with Hashem when I fulfilled the mitzvah spiritual Omer the night before and the night before that. The movement of Pashas Mitzvah, like itself understood from the fact that every single day of the 49 days of Shvira, we make the bracha Asher Kiddushanim Mitzvahs V'Sivanal Shviras Omer, that the one who sanctified us with his mitzvahs and commanded us to count the Omer. It doesn't make sense that they should make two brachas, Valachas Kam V'Kama Memtes brachas. How much more so? 49 brachas al oise in on the same matter, just like when a person sits down to eat. So he takes a bite of an apple and he makes a bite of priya eitz. That's it. He doesn't have to make a bite of priya eitz anymore for that meal. The same thing. He made a bracha already on this ascent of the mitzvah spheres oimer. Why is he making again a bracha on the ascent of Sfiras Omer? Because today's ascent of Sfiras Omer is not yesterday's, it's a higher level. Therefore, we must say, must say that this is affecting the joining and togetherness through the fulfillment of the mitzvah in this day in a much higher way than it was the day prior. I know this means Shabbat Safsa, but Chibur Shaydei Mitzvah Shviras Omer, the togetherness and joy that takes place in the mitzvah Shvira. Yashnam Aliyos Medarga Ladarga, there are elevations in a sense from one level to another level. And this itself, he goes from strength to strength. Vash is an agam negiel avodah poil till it also matters in his actual avodah. The first day of Spira, he refines in his own neshama, and not only does he refine his own neshama, but the entire world, like it says, Yushpa Shefarav, and he also affects this and refines a whole entire chain order of descent, the sphere of Chesed Shebechesed. Now, the next day of Sfira, there's a totally new thing that he's affecting in all of these things. Ulamachras on the morrow, Gevurah Shebechesed, and the day after that, Tiferet Shebechesed B'chul. Pisa, the Rebbe says, move on according to this, understood, Seder Avodah, the Gimel Chadoshim, Adar Nisan Iyar. What's the order of the Avodah of the 3 months of Adar Nisan and Iyar? L'chayil Rosh B'ina Simcha, the Chodesh Adar, first and foremost comes the joy of the month of Adar. This joy is not yet complete. Even though the simcha is such a way that transcends intellect, we still have not yet reached the redemption. Even after the salvation at the place on Purim, we still remain slaves and servants of Achashverosh. Following that, you have to bring one Geula closer to the following Geula. Geula's Chodesh Nisan, the redemption of Matam Nisan Shu. Chodesh Geula, the entire month is a month of redemption. Chodesh Iyar, following that comes the month of Iyar, Shenikudosim, Mitzvah Sfiras Omer, the point of the month of Iyar is the mitzvah of Sfira, Tzafsa, V'chibur, togetherness and joining, Lahadgish, to emphasize, Shagam, La'achli, Inyan Agula, even after the redemption, so Liyas, Aliyas, Mechail, Choil, it has to be a sense ascending from strength to strength, in such a manner of ascending, that the duration of an entire month, daily. Is that when something takes place every single day, that indicates how everlasting it is. He's going up in the service from strength to strength. I know this means he's not satisfied with the togetherness and joining that was affected through his avodah yesterday. He increases in this in a much higher way. Is similar to the advantages and qualities of holiness that will be when Mashiach comes. That's nice. Gimel and Yonaman now, these 3 points, him klolos avodas ha'adam, the general avoid of a person. Yiridas haneshama beguf, yiridas torah chalid, the descent of the neshama, the body is a descent for the sake of an asset. As I'm moving for this understood, shal achre neshama oilam abira mikta la igra rama, after neshama rises up from the deep pit, the deep dungeon, to the high roof. Aliyah Shabal Achra, the ascent that happens after the descent. Nasai, there's a Simcha G'doyel B'Yoser. Through that comes a great joy. Dugmas Chodesh Adar, similar to the joy of the month of Adar. Inyan HaSimcha, which the whole idea of the month of Adar is the idea of joy. Well, Achra, following that, by Inyan Agula comes the idea of redemption. Kitach we see legals and Tzaitis Dushish Naflamata. The goal is to redeem the sparks of holiness that fell down here below. Through the fact that he's studying Torah and investing in it his entire energy of his 248 limbs and organs of his body. When Mekayim mitzvahs binyana olam fulfills mitzvahs in matters of this world. He redeems those sparks of holiness that fell into this deep pit and dungeon. And the redemption is in a way of being redeemed in a peaceful manner, in a complete and true redemption, similar to the month of Nisan, which is the idea of redemption. But all of this, all is still insufficient. The ultimate perfect state is that the sparks of holiness in all matters of the world, including the person that refines these sparks, they will become subsumed, they become one with the luminary Atzmos and Bahus, Hashem's very essence. Similar to a spark that's swallowed up and becomes part of a torch. And in our topic, that they will become part of the sun, and its sheath is is even more so. Like the sun will be, that the Chazal say when Mashiach comes, this Hashem will take the sun out of its sheath. Till all will see with our sense of sight that there's nothing besides him. Since your master will not hide himself anymore in a garment. That's a general point of the month of Iyar. Mitzvah Sfiras Omer, the mitzvah of the counting of the Omer, the togetherness and joining with Hashem's very essence. The Rebbe goes on to say, and closing is then the fellows gambas managolas. This general idea is affected also in the time of exile. We don't have to wait for the Geula to be able to have this. And the double and quadruple darkness of the heels of Mashiach. Through the mitzvah being a candle, the Torah is the light. So the idea of joy is affected and comes about. through transforming the matters of the world to holiness, that's turned over. After that, there's the idea of redemption, the redemption of the sparks of holiness. Till it's affected the idea of togetherness and joining with Hashem. That's the idea of the 3 months of other Nisan and Iyar. This avoid is a close preparation. Should become mamish very soon. Mamish, but Yom Machrein shall goals in the final days of the exile. Inyan the Simcha Soil Malrosh, and there will be the idea of the joy, the everlasting joy will be upon their heads. Idea Inyan the Benafich, who through the idea of transformation. Instead of the double and quadruple darkness of the heels of Mashiach, Nasar Gol becomes a great light. The foil simple affects a great joy. After the idea of joy in the final days of exile, it came and comes the true and complete redemption from Mashiach. It's a way like it's similar to the days of we're going out of the land of Mitzrayim. Through the first Redeemer, which Chazal say, the first Redeemer is the final Redeemer. Following that, it's affected the idea that your masters will not wrap themselves up anymore in a garment. And your eyes will see your master until Eden and the king are all one or all alone between themselves. That the Yid, along with his actions and his service, becomes entirely one with Hashem's very essence. The Rebbe concludes, "Begula mitzvah shlema de Mashiach tzidkenu," the true and complete redemption through Mashiach. And then Tivol Nagin Mitzrayim Gealtanu Atabachatanu, he said that the people should sing Mitzrayim Gealtanu and Atabachatanu.